overnight they had better broadband than probably 85% of the people in the state. It was amazing.
3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
You guys, I am so excited to share this video with you today. I got to talk to Russ Elliott. He heads the Washington State Broadband Office, and that is actually a fairly new office here in Washington. And they are doing some great things for Washingtonians across the state. As you saw in my last video, I talked to Melvin John, part of the Ho tribe, and how getting internet in that area has just been completely transformative for the lives of tribal members there. So I wanted to talk to the other half of that equation, Russ Elliott, who actually had a lot of ideas for how Starlink would benefit not only the Ho tribe, but also benefit emergency responders during the Malden wildfire. He had some great things to say today, and I'm so excited to share this video with you. So let's get into it.
Hey, look at where I am. I'm in a car in the middle of Belfair.
Oh my gosh. I love your shirt. Wow.
Well, thank you.
That's snazzy. Russ Elliott.
Yes.
And you had it looks like it's raining there. You had the Washington State Broadband Office, correct?
I do, yeah.
So it was my understanding that office was established in 2019?
It was, yeah, with legislation that was Senate Bill 5511.
And I'm proud that this measure will give us more people in our state access to broadband, which connects us to commerce, education, jobs, healthcare, and each other.
Stood up the office, stood up this position, put about $20 million into an infrastructure grant loan program that was handed off to the Public Works Board, and set some pretty aggressive goals for the state with regard to connectivity. And it's cool because we have the most aggressive goal in the country. So it's fun to be the champion of that. Part of my background that's probably most relevant is I ran what's called a competitive local exchange carrier in Colorado for about 15 years. So I learned how to build network, in some of the deep rural areas, very, very hard to reach areas. Ended up with about 14,000 customers through Western Colorado, Northern New Mexico. Did fiber, did copper, did wireless. And from there, went on to Wyoming, and the governor there called me and said, "Hey, would you come up and help me start a broadband office there?" And so was doing some work there, and the work there got recognized, and I got recruited. So you were able to help provide Starlink to the Ho tribe. I actually just did an interview with Melvin John, and so tell me how that all evolved. Yeah, it was very interesting the way it came about. As the broadband office, one of the things that we focus on is emerging technologies. So we're not just focused on, what we know, but what could be, because there's a lot of that opportunity out there. And one of those emerging technologies happened to be low Earth orbit satellite, which is the Starlink SpaceX program. So I had been talking with their team about, hey, proof of concept, let's figure something out here in Washington State, if there's anything we can do. Couldn't figure out anything. And then one day I'm talking with Melvin John and the Ho tribe there at the beginning of the pandemic, and it was very apparent that these guys were going to be out there in the middle of nowhere with nothing. And it was at a time when it was scary. We didn't have access to school. They were having storms, and they were having power outages, and they were having cellular outages, and they weren't going to have any access to just basics. And so it became kind of something that was really, I really became attached to that. I had to figure out a way to help them get some better type of connectivity out there. And given my background, I knew we could do it. I knew there would be something. Hadn't put the two together just yet. And in the end, I guess I started working on trying to help them with some kind of a wireless infrastructure in there. And then it just kind of came to me. I said, hey, let's put Starlink together. If they're looking for a beta, no better beta in the world than this remote tribe out on the West Coast. And to the Ho's credit, they took that risk. They built that trust immediately, which is unique in that space. And they said, we'll give it a try. Let's see what we can do. And as well, Starlink said, okay, we'll try it too. Let's just see what happens. And it's really cool to watch those two come together and start the conversations, to see it happen as quickly as it did, and to see how it's going to change the lives of those people as rapidly as it did was amazing. Well, and it seems like it's already well exceeded their expectations, even in the beta phase, which is just incredible. Yeah, it was fun. We got there, and I think Elon Musk's direction to his team is, look, if it's harder than a 5-minute setup, I failed. right? So he wanted to make certain that this thing could be done and done by anybody, that wanted to try to get internet wherever they were. And obviously, I was a little pessimistic. There's no way anybody's going to get internet that quick and that easy. And sure enough, we got that box out there. We opened the box out in the parking lot.
Right.
I think it took Melvin John 5 minutes, and he had it all hooked up. The thing started to find its north-facing, position, and once it sat there, I mean, immediately we had broadband. It was just the most amazing thing to see a community that went from nothing to all of a sudden having 100 megabits. They actually had overnight. They had better broadband than probably 85% of the people in the state. It was amazing to see that. We're all sitting there as the tech guys, and we're looking at our phones, going, "Okay, what's it look like? How fast is it going? I'm going to do a speed test real quick. Are we getting connectivity?" And Melvin John was quickly downloading Jurassic Park, the movie, because we take it for granted, right? We take it for granted. Those of us that have it just sit back and say, well, it's something that we can do. We can email, and we can download pictures and download movies, update our Xboxes and the gaming systems and all that kind of stuff. And immediately it became, something that brought them, those basic things that we take for granted. And it was really cool to see that. And his face lit up, and he was.
Yeah, he gave me so many examples of just like that, people that would have to drive up the road just to watch a YouTube video, and the kids loving the YouTube, and then things that I didn't even think about, like access to AA meetings,
Right.
like who thinks about that? And that will continue to serve them, because even though now with COVID kind of finally there's a light at the end of the tunnel, it was kind of a pain to take that bus to Forks, and he was explaining all that. So this is just really increasing accessibility.
This is a great tool in the toolbox, and it was great to prove the concept. So it was just the right place, right time.
Right.
Everybody deserves some type of physical infrastructure that allows them to connect and not just be dependent on a satellite that's bouncing around in the sky. So as we were working through the wireless situation, we're coming out of Port Angeles with a radio that was going up on top of Octopus Mountain that was firing down to their fire station. We'd had to build a tower there, get a distribution, and so it was going to take more time. And here all of a sudden they said, we're just going to send a box, open the box up and get internet, and it was, and it is that simple. It's been amazing, because that was the first beta in the country, obviously. And now they've launched their better than nothing beta, I guess, across the country. And
right.
A lot of people are taking advantage of it, and like I say, it's a tremendous asset to have. It's awesome to have in a situation where otherwise it takes too much time or it's too expensive,
right.
to build it out. So,
and especially currently with no data caps, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts, right? We've got the no
Right.
data caps thing, and the other thing that's going on right now, it's one thing to get the internet to somebody, then it's the other thing to make certain they can afford it. Right. That was the other thing that I was very worried about when we set this up, because it's not cheap, and so I didn't want to set them up for failure. I didn't want to set them up to have something all of a sudden, we can't afford it. So
Right.
we were able to leverage some CARES money and make certain that they had access to the internet. One of the coolest stories I heard out of this, one of the tribal members said to me, perhaps now I can move back to the reservation and be close to my family, because now I'll have the access that I need in order to be successful and functional, versus being away from the reservation. And that, to me, if it doesn't give you goosebumps, I don't know who you are. It should make you feel, it really endears me into the effort. So it was.
I was reading an article from Crosscut just a couple days ago. I'm sure you know, because you're in it. So that was interesting to me, and I wanted to see if you could elaborate on, there's a flaw in the system, and you're bringing light to that. So can you explain?
Yeah, this one's a pretty big deal, and it's the like I said, it's the sour sweet thing, right? Because there is a place for Starlink, there is a place for this tool, and there's a place for us to continue to embrace a technology that allows us to get rapid deployment at a cost affordable way. But at the same time, there's an unprecedented amount of federal funds coming down the pipe. We see it. Everybody sees it. It's coming to the states. It's coming to the counties. It's coming, and it's coming for, COVID relief. It's coming to help, sustain things that got backwards during the pandemic. And it's also coming to stimulate the economy to get us going, right? And a lot of that's going to be focused on infrastructure.
Right.
And I think, my story right now is I want to see as much infrastructure in the ground invested in the state of Washington I can, to ensure that people for future generations have the capability of having access to future-proof scalable infrastructure, right? So if we've done a reverse auction with the federal government, and the federal government has allocated a technology and a company to an area, that area is no longer capable of going in and receiving additional federal money for infrastructure investment. And so in my opinion, we need to take advantage. We need our communities to take advantage, especially our tribal areas. We've got a lot of tribal regions that were allocated technology and providers without really any consultation, without any consideration. And now those tribal areas that are all of a sudden at the cusp of being able to take advantage of some tremendous capital will not be able to leverage it because it won't be able to be implemented in areas where there's already been federal funds allocated or committed. So it's a hard one for me, and it's one where I'm pushing back now. The NTIA is coming out with a big a $1 billion tribal fund, and we've been pushing back very hard to say, allow us to take advantage of this capital right now. Allow us to invest in the ground in Washington State for the people of Washington State. And at the end of that, if there are areas that we still couldn't make work because of financial issues or because of remoteness or whatever, bring that other opportunity back in and put it on top, and let's just build the perfect broadband scenario for Washington State. I say it all the time. I've got a 5-year-old, and if we're gonna be borrowing money against his future, he'll be paying those bills in 20 years. We had best be invested in infrastructure that will be here and he will be using robustly at that point in time. So he's saying thank you, right? Because we made good decisions. Not that we're investing in technology that's going to get us through this challenging time and selfishly just serve our needs. I would love Starlink to be more collaborative with where there is the biggest challenges. Where are the most unserved people, and how do we support those folks? My mission, my commission is to go and serve the unserved folks of this. And a lot of that's going to be in that deep rural area, right? So I would love Starlink to be asking me the questions, because we have the maps, we have the tools, we understand where those folks are. Where can we best, deploy our infrastructure? But at this point in time, I think Starlink it's a new technology. It's exciting for people. They've got first movers advantage. And so they're going to go out there and they're going to take advantage of that. And they're going to do it the way they want to do it, because it is their private company and they're going to do it their way. So, for me, I would love to see more of a collaborative effort to where we can talk about, infrastructure people that are building out, and they can decide, it costs where we can do it. It's most, it's feasible out to this area, and past there, we really could use some support of some other technology. And that could be a place where Starlink would come in and partner with folks like that. I would love to see that here. And it may come in the future, but again, they're taking advantage of their first mover. What's happened is the states are getting very intelligent in this conversation, because we have to. Each state is unique. Each state has unique challenges. Each state has unique assets. Each state has unique opportunities, right? Washington State is one of those. We've got great public assets. We have great private providers in this state. So we need to take advantage of that. And because we are building maps to understand at a better detail where people are unserved, where there's challenges, where there's no capital, I would love the federal government to listen more often to the states and allow the states to start participating in the conversation.
So with the Starlink, implementation that you have been a part of, has it only been with the Hoh tribe so far, or are there any other places in Washington that you've been able to get this running in?
One of the most satisfactory moments of my career was when we had the tragedy in Malden this summer and this fall. And I reached out to Starlink and I said, we need some type of communication there. Can you help us? And I mean, they were scrambling to get us a unit there. And within 4 or 5 hours, we had a unit from Spokane into Malden. And we were able to bring up emergency communications for the state of Washington over, in that short amount of time. And it was a critical infrastructure, a critical time. And it was incredible that they came to the table and participated in that degree. So they've done that with us, but for the most part, they really are. They're out there in a new territory and just figuring it out and taking advantage of that first mover's advantage again. They're out there just saying, okay, how do we best do this and really make the most of it. They've got they have a significant investment they've got to return. They got to get back. They've put in billions probably in floating things up in the sky, and they've got another few thousand they got to put up there. We don't know what's coming, right? I mean, the more we think about the internet, the more we think, oh, well, we can do Facebook or YouTube or download movies or do these kind of things. But I contend we've got to build this internet for where we're not even thinking, right? We've got to be thinking about the unthinkable right now. Artificial intelligence. You got to talk about virtual reality. Is the school teacher going to come to the home virtually?
Wow.
Is the student going to go to the school virtually? Will you go visit a doctor virtually? And upload all your biometric data, real time.
Right.
Those kind of things. So we got to build the infrastructure to be able to embrace the technology that's coming. And I think that's where I'd like to keep everybody focused. Not just I need it for today so I can do email or whatever I need to do, but embrace what applications are coming, because it's beyond our imagination.
I feel like if anyone has that level of imagination, it's Elon Musk.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We're fortunate too that we have Amazon in this state, right? And Amazon's coming out with their
Project Kuiper.
Yeah, Project Kuiper, and it'll be their low Earth orbit, opportunities. We're already talking with them and their development crew about how there might be some collaborative opportunities. And
like I said, the more that I've learned about Starlink, I'm more invested in it personally, and I just think it's really going to change the world, and that's kind of why I'm reaching out to people like you and just people that bring in the human interest element, not just here's my dish and let's unbox it, and everyone's doing that, but I think that it's important to.
It's funny. I have to tell just a quick story. As the broadband director for Wyoming, obviously the most rural state in the country, right? So I'm sitting there thinking, hey, how am I going to get 500,000 people in the state of Wyoming? That's about that, I think, in a downtown high-rise in Seattle, right? And you got to spread out all over the state. And I'm thinking, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to get everybody remotely hooked up? And I was always the naysayer on this technology. I had a board that we did emerging technologies, and I had a group on my emerging technologies that really followed this technology. And they said, this is it. This is the future. It's going to be really cool. And I was always like, yeah, right. Come on. It's never going to work. This is silly, And now I'm the guy that's out there really pushing it and peddling it. And I teased my friends that I worked with back there. I said, hey, you should have believed me in the beginning. This is great. This is the most compelling technology out there.
Oh my gosh.
We had to see proof of concept, because there are a lot of us that sat back and said, wait a second, this is the way we've always done it. I don't understand how that's going to work and whether or not there's going to be a challenge to get up and back kind of thing. But they've certainly figured it out. Google had a balloon that was out there, the Google Loon project, and that was kind of a front thinking thing. And there's been all sorts of different, we're going to solve this rural connectivity, with this magic wand. And LEO, low Earth orbit, was one of those things that was kind of in that magic wand bucket, and I was, we got to keep building infrastructure. We got to use these towers. We got to use, get right of ways. We got to do all this stuff. And so, it was back then, and there's been a lot of people talking about it. And here we are. The challenges we got now is, you're going to, just like everything, you have the first people there in space doing this, but it is on spectrum. There will be limited frequency. There's going to be limited real estate for satellites to float around. You're going to have multiple companies now racing for that. What does that look like? And that's another reason why I'm a little disappointed by the FCC making the decision they did to allocate so much to low Earth orbit technology across the country, because it is a technology that still has yet to be proven at scale, right? We're going to have, and when the federal government awards money, they award money for 10-year periods. Right, so they're banking on this that 10 years from now, in 2031, they had made a good investment, and that's just the beginning of greatness. Where a lot of times when they've made these 10-year investments, at the end of the 10 years, we're looking at them going, "Why did you do this?" Some of the technologies that we're paying for still today, are technologies we can't even use anymore, and it's because they made that investment without understanding the scope and the scale. I'm optimistic. I've seen it. It is changing people's lives immediately. So, it's already doing, it's already doing its job. And that's the exciting thing, that people are being connected at a time, especially now, at a time when people need to be.
As always, thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate all of the new subscribers and just the great comments that I've been reading from you guys. Again, I am up to date on this topic. I want to bring you the latest, and I hope that you will subscribe if you're interested in this topic so that you can also stay up to date on this emerging, amazing technology. All right, I'll see you soon.